call this meeting of the Planning Commission. Today, Tuesday, November 26th. The time is 6 o'clock. Let's see. Ms. Jones, if you release on the invocation, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
All right.
Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you in the name of Jesus. We just hope that you open all the hearts and minds to this zoning community and you protect us in our decisions and help us to hear clarity throughout the situation. And we pray for your safety as we go into the holiday season. Amen.
You stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Jasper, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. So next item up on our agenda is to adopt the agenda. Do we have a motion to do so?
I'll motion.
No second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, the agenda is adopted. Next up is I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from our Tuesday, September 24th meeting.
No motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, they are adopted as written. All right, so the 2025 Planning Commission's meeting schedule, let's see, where is that? Oh, we don't actually have that in here. Oh, okay, there it is. All right. It looks fine to me. I assume I'll be here for most of them. Any questions, concerns, comments on the schedule? All right. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries, the schedule is adopted. All right, so we have some items left over from our last attempt at a meeting. We'll start with our unfinished business. If y'all could introduce us to item number one.
Right, good evening, Chair, members of the Commission. You're all good. The first item that we have before you this evening is a request by applicant and property owner Erica Johnston to rezone her property located at 38 Mary Street from C2 General Commercial to R1 Low Density Single Family Residential to allow for an existing single family residence. So as far as the site context goes, the subject property is located north of the northeast corner of Mary Street and Church Street, roughly 200 feet east of Lee Newton Park. It is approximately 2/10 of an acre in size. It is improved with an existing legal non-conforming single-family residence that was built in 1950. The existing residence is approximately 860 square feet in size and is connected to city water and sewer. For a bit more of the site context from the ground, to the south and east, there are professional offices zoned general commercial. To the north, there is another legal non-conforming single-family residence, also zoned general commercial. And to the northwest, across Mary Street, there is a single-family residence zoned low-density single-family residential, which is the same zoning classification that the applicant is requesting. So to give you some background on the request, the applicant, Ms. Johnston, is a local school teacher, and she purchased this property outright back in August of this year with the intent of making the existing residence into her personal home. Ms. Johnston is looking to make some needed updates to the residence, which she will be financing through her local bank. And although this use is considered legal non-conforming from a city perspective, Ms. Johnston's bank requires that the property have residential zoning in order to proceed with the home renovation loan. Staff worked with Ms. Johnston to see if her bank would be willing to accept a zoning verification letter, again confirming the legal non-conforming use in lieu of the zoning, but her bank was not able to waive the zoning requirement, which is why we've decided to go ahead and proceed with this request. And just quickly, before I leave this slide, I did want to touch on the surrounding zoning and use context. So as you can see on the map here, there are a number of single-family residences in the immediate area. And I feel that this is important to note because although the surrounding zoning context is predominantly commercial, the surrounding use context is fairly evenly split between these single-family residences and lower intensity commercial uses as this area transitions into downtown. So when we evaluate a rezoning request, we look to the Pickens County Joint Comprehensive Plan, which designates this property as part of the West Jasper Gateway Corridor. And this corridor is intended to promote a mix of uses, including residential where appropriate, in the area south and west of downtown, and then moving a little bit further west down Church Street. And staff believes that by introducing residential zoning in this location and preserving a residential use in this area, that this proposal is consistent with the comprehensive plan. I think it's also worth mentioning that just given the limited size of this property, the surrounding use context, that this site is, and also the lack of visibility and traffic along Mary Street, that this site is probably better suited for a residential use than a commercial use. So with that, staff is recommending approval, subject to conditions. The first condition is that the existing residence shall not be altered in any way that would increase its existing degree of nonconformity. The second condition is that the existing residence may not be demolished and rebuilt unless it is destroyed by a natural disaster, such as a fire. The third condition confirms that the applicant will secure all required permits prior to commencing renovations. And the fourth and final condition is an acknowledgement of our ongoing temporary suspension, and that this rezoning, if approved, is not a commitment regarding future water or sewer availability. So with that, that concludes my presentation, and we have the applicant, Ms. Johnston, here in attendance as well.
Ms. Johnson, would you like to speak, or do you have anything to add?
I don't really have anything to add. She
Okay.
said everything. I just want to renovate the property, and my bank requires the residential. So I'm excited to live downtown.
Yeah.
So
Do you have an intention to add on to the structure?
No,
Okay.
yeah, no, I have a contractor. We already have plans. We're not changing the footprint of the house at all. It's just everything from 1950 is still there. So it just needs renovated.
And were you gonna do some cosmetic upgrades to the front of the home?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That'll look really nice.
Was the house, was it used as a residence prior to you? I mean, it was used as a residence prior to you?
It was used as a residence, and I believe it was a rental property for quite a while. I've had a few people tell me that in the area, but it was a residence. I don't know whether there ever was a commercial use for it, except that the bathroom door has a little thing that says, bathroom, like you would see in the business, which is sort of weird since people live there. So I don't know, but I've never seen anything that stated it was a commercial property. Yeah, a business. So.
Does anyone else in attendance want to speak on this or discuss this? Any discussion or questions from the board or the commission? Do I have a motion to either approve or deny? Or recommendation for
I'll
approval?
make a motion to recommend.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We'll make a recommendation for approval of the variance you're seeking, or zoning you're seeking.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, this time we'll move on to item number 2.
All right, so the next item that we have before you this evening is a request by applicant Danny Dangler on behalf of Champagne Toasters LLC, the owner of property located at 2101 Waleska Highway 108. And Mr. Dangler is here requesting a special use permit to allow for a drive-thru as an accessory use to a convenience store and truck stop with fuel sales. So as far as the site context goes, the subject property is located on the east side of the intersection of Highway 515 and Waleska Highway 108. It is approximately 2¼ acres in size and zoned C2 General Commercial. And despite what is reflected on the aerial here, the property is currently vacant. However, as you all may recall, this is the site of the former Dunn's Restaurant, truck stop, and gas station that was demolished earlier this year. So a bit more of the site context from the ground. The subject property is surrounded on all sides by undeveloped commercially zoned property. To the northeast and south, we have Pickens County Highway Business Zoning, and to the west across Highway 515, we have City of Jasper General Commercial Zoning. So the applicant, Mr. Dangler, is submitting this request on behalf of Clipper Petroleum, which is planning to develop the property with a new convenience store, gas station, and truck stop. So in the C2 district, drive-through uses do require a special use permit, and this is just to ensure that they're compatible with the site, nearby traffic patterns, and any adjoining developments. And despite the fact that this is not the typical drive-through use you might think of, the drive-through itself will be pretty standard. It will have an order point with a menu boarding speaker, a primary queuing lane, a bypass lane, and a pickup window. So this image is an excerpt from Clipper's first formal site plan submittal for the facility. As you can see highlighted in yellow, the drive-through will be located on the rear side of the convenience store building, in between the convenience store and the truck fuel canopy. And the drive-through will be exclusively Clipper branded, meaning that it will only sell products from the convenience store, as well as Clipper's grab-and-go burrito loco concept. So in other words, we're not going to be partnering with a national restaurant like a Dunkin' or a Dairy Queen at this location. And then while I have the site plan up, I do just quickly want to touch upon traffic. So as part of their first formal site plan submittal, the applicant is working to prepare an engineered traffic study that will be reviewed by the city as well as our third-party traffic consultant. Staff does have some concerns about traffic at this busy intersection, but the applicant is already in conversations with GDOT on some potential mitigation efforts. And again, those will be reviewed and approved by the city through the site plan review process. So these images are some conceptual renderings that Clipper provided for the proposed facility. These are actually borrowed from another facility Clipper is working on in Lula, Georgia. So again, no subway or national tenant, but we just wanted to include these to sort of convey the quality and the character of this establishment. As you can see on the left side of the top rendering, the drive-through will wrap around the building to the pickup window. And then there on the right side of the bottom rendering, you can see where the drive-through entry will be located in relation to the primary building entry. So when we evaluate a special use permit request, again, we look to the Pickens County Joint Comprehensive Plan, which designates this property as part of the Jasper Arterial Commercial Corridor. This corridor naturally promotes highway-oriented land uses adjacent to Highway 515. And staff believes that by providing this convenient drive-through use at this well-traveled intersection, that this request is consistent with the comprehensive plan. And so with that, staff is recommending approval subject to conditions. The first condition is that the drive-through is limited to an accessory use for a convenience store. And this will just ensure that if a restaurant user were to come in the future, that they would have to go back through this review process. The second condition is that the drive-through shall include a bypass lane. This is just to ensure that it moves efficiently. The third condition is that the drive-through shall have a maximum of 9-foot clearance. And this is just to make sure that no oversized vehicles enter the drive-through. The fourth condition is that the pickup window shall have weather protection. And the idea behind this is to make it more comfortable for both the employees and the patrons as they're handing out the items. The fifth condition is that a minimum of 40 feet of stacking shall be provided between the drive-through entry and the order point. And this is just to ensure that the drive-through does not back up into any other maneuvering areas on the site. The sixth condition is that striping and signage is required at pedestrian crossings. Currently on the site plan, they do show a pedestrian crossing through the drive-through between the truck fuel canopy and the convenience store building. So we just want to make sure that any patrons in the drive-through are cognizant of that. And then the seventh and final condition is again an acknowledgement of the ongoing temporary suspension, and that this special use permit, if approved, is not a commitment regarding future water or sewer availability. However, just given the former Dunn's use at this location and the proximity of water and sewer, it is anticipated that the city will be able to serve this development. So with that, this concludes my presentation, and we have the applicant, Mr. Dangler, in attendance. He does have bronchitis, so.
It's a blessing.
Yeah. I may have to answer some of the questions on his behalf.
Yeah, we won't make you talk if you don't want to, Mr. Bennett. Although I guess I am disappointed in the lack of biscuit and meat and 3 at the.
He says the burritos are very good, so we're all good.
There's no accounting for taste.
Yeah.
Anyone in attendance would like to comment or make any, ask any questions? Any questions from the panel up here?
My only question was about the traffic, but you've answered that.
This time I'll entertain a motion to either approve, recommendation for approval or deny,
A motion for recommendation for approval.
with the conditions as stated.
Yeah, conditions as stated.
Here a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We'll make a motion to, recommend with, approval with the conditions listed. Okay, we'll move on, right along to item number 3.
So if the commission would allow me, items 3 and 4, I'd like to take together
Oh,
because
absolutely.
they have to do with the same property essentially.
Yep.
So we have a rezoning request and variance request made by Mary Cagle on behalf of George and Barbara Mosley, Edward and Mary Cagle for the properties at 205 and 215 Stegall Drive. And this is this is right around the corner from the Mary Street property that we just heard. This is a property that is currently zoned C2, and they would like to rezone it to R1 and to allow for the 2 existing single-family residents, which are on a combined lot right now, as well as concurrent variances to reduce the requirement of lot frontage for one, and eliminate the requirement for frontage on a public-private street, and to allow for the subdivision into 2 lots. So just a quick overview, the existing conditions. This is located on Stegall, as I spoke before. One of the houses is right along Stegall, and the other one is tucked back further in the lot. You can see by the stars there. It is currently zoned C2. It's on public utilities, and it has 160 feet of public frontage on a public way, which is Stegall. And it has 2 existing single-family residences that were built in the 50s. So I just wanted to add a little context because this may seem like something that is just commonplace, that you just stamp the plan and let it go, because obviously these houses have been there for 70 plus years. So as the city has progressed, so has its zoning ordinances. So in order to be designated an R1, you have to meet the minimum requirements of an R1 designation. So that would include 110 feet of frontage, and then, you know, your setbacks and frontage on a public way. So there's several aspects that it has to comply with. So right now, as we see this lot, in an R1, this would be considered a lot. And if I were to approve a subdivision on this, then we would have to have, each one of them would have to have the minimum requirement, which is half an acre, and also the minimum frontage, which is 110 feet. So when we're speaking in regards to the 2 subject properties, they do not have, the combined frontage is 160. So that's where we start running into it's not conforming and we can't endorse it. So we spoke with Ms. Cagle several times in discussions about how the best way to do this and to actually get to where they want to go. So just for a little context, we have the surrounding uses, you know, the middle school's over there. We also have several residences that are also offices. And then we have single family residential, and then behind it, it is bound by the cemetery. So there are some existing constraints also that make it a little bit more meeting the criteria, say, for the variances. So, currently the status is that it is non-conforming, pre-existing non-conforming, and in order to sell the properties, so I believe there was an attempt to sell them as 1 lot, 2 houses, but they were not getting a lot of feedback, and that it would be easier to sell them as 2 single-family residences. So in order to do that, we had to overcome some of the issues with the minimum lot requirements and also access, legal access. So here's the subdivision plan that has been presented to us. So a couple of things that would need to happen in order to protect the legal non-conforming nature of the existing property, i.e. access to that rear property lot. So the rear lot will be accessed by an irrevocable egress easement, which will be deed restricted. Both of them meet the minimum lot requirements for size, so the half acre, so they both meet that. And then there's no proposed changes to any of the existing residences. So basically, the rear lot will not have frontage. So the variance, when we get into discussions on that, that will be 0. Their frontage will be 0. However, they will have that access egress, but they will also have the 3/4 of an acre instead of the front where it only has the half. So again, our future development map, we always look to comprehensive plan to see if this is within the bounds of the comp plan. So this area is known as the traditional neighborhood, so it does have a characteristic of both light commercial, residential uses, and kind of that walkability to downtown. So I believe when this was all rezoned to C2, it was the thought that our downtown was going to grow that massively. And the school across the street is actually zoned R1, so it's yeah.
Okay.
So, maybe we got some infill when we, have to build a new middle school or what have you, or, yeah. So, also, doing this use in this area, these aren't high traffic items, these are single family residences or office type space that's existing over there. So, we believe it is, does meet the qualifications of the future land use map as well. So the variance request, as I discussed before, in order to subdivide, they would have to get that minimum 110 feet, so they only have 160 for both of them. So that's where that 0 lot comes into one of the lots. And also being able to have that egress easement, which is you can't have a house not on a public way. So that's the other variance. So our analysis for the variance, as you know, we have to go through the 5 criteria and all shall be met. So the first one is size, shape, or topography prevents them from compliance. And because of the L shape, and also, it's bound by the rear by that cemetery as well, so the accesses can only be off Spagal. So if they actually didn't, could go through the cemetery or what have you, but obviously that's not something that could happen. So the application of this ordinance to this particular piece of property would create an unnecessary hardship. So, the ordinance would prevent the owner from a reasonable use of the property, i.e. selling it as 2 separate properties. So we believe that this has been met as well. The property's unique depth and shape likely, and also taking that cemetery again, it is peculiar to this piece of property. So the L shape bound by the cemetery, so you can't get any egress off of 53. So, and then again, conditions are not the result of the property owner. This being developed in the 50s, the zoning procedures law came into effect in 85. Our first shot at zoning regulations were in 79, so this is super pre-existing. So no ordinance was in place when this started. So we believe that this is obviously not the result of the owner. It is just the result of the city growing and changing with what are the requirements. And so, would this set substantial detriment to the public good? We do not feel that this property would do that, as it would still be single family houses and then would be able to be sold, and also, obviously due to our lack of housing in the area, I think it would be beneficial to have 2 extra houses on the market. So our recommendations, and so when y'all are making a motion, we will do them separately. So we will first rezone, and then we will do the variances. So just keep that in mind. So staff recommendation is for approval of the rezoning with this following conditions. So you cannot expand or increase the non-conforming nature. So that's one of the things as being non-conforming. is that if you expand on that footprint, you will be required to come and get additional variances because you cannot meet the spirit of the ordinance. Existing residents, obviously, they can only be demolished if it is natural disaster, so fire, flood, all of those. And then, again, are no commitments to water and sewer, in the spirit of our suspension. And so the staff recommendations for the variances, approval with following conditions. So the applicant shall process a subdivision plat and split the subject property in conformance with what we have already seen there. That they will have the irrevocable ingress-egress easement, that will be deed referenced on the plan as well as in the deeds that they procure for the selling of the property. Access, so that access easement will need to be paved in order to ensure that there will be the longevity of access through that property. And then lastly, all of these conditions must be on the plat before we will endorse it.
So for the lot size is 0.46 acres, so do we round up to 0.5, is that?
So it's 20,000, but technically an acre is 43,560, and so 0.46 of 43,560 meets the minimum requirement.
Okay.
So essentially, yes.
Okay. Alright, anyone else like to ask questions, speak on this, these two items before us? Any questions, comments from the panel?
Make a motion.
Alright, and so we're gonna have two motions, we have one to approve the rezoning and then one for the variances, so.
I'll motion, with the recommendation to approve the reason
Subject to the conditions listed.
subject to condition.
I did prepare a overhead view. It was done by Georgia Power.
Sure.
I think that might help you to see it a little bit better, the two houses where they were built, one by my husband's father, and he built both houses. My husband's father built the first one on this steep wall. At the front, I didn't bring enough.
Oh, you're fine.
And at the front of Steve, his mother and father lived in this room, and he did until they died. And then Bobby and Kent, my husband's sister, lived in this one.
Okay.
So you can see,
Yeah.
that it was the 1.2 acres where they got additional land, but they are substantial houses.
Yeah.
They're built with rock, they are beautiful inside, we put a lot of work into them.
Yeah.
There's lots of replacement.
They are, very
They're my favorite ones.
And over the years, my husband has done a tremendous amount of work on these houses, so
That's awesome.
we've got so much money invested in them at this point. We really would like to keep renting the back one to the people that are renting it,
Yeah.
they're good renters. And if we could sell the front one, we could get some of our money and some of Bobby's money back.
Yeah.
Bobby's in the assisted
Yeah,
living.
I read the
So,
letter there.
it's just, that's why we need to try to sell them separately.
Yeah.
Okay?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alright, so we have a motion to approve rezoning with the subject conditions, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Alright, all in favor? Alright, we'll voted to recommend the approval for rezoning subject to the conditions listed. And this time we'll entertain an approval of the variances subject to the conditions listed.
I'll make a motion for approval of the variances with conditions.
Alright, do you hear a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Alright, motion carries. Thank you.
All right, our next, this is our new item, not carryover from the last. This is a request made by Kevin Lohner on behalf of our LLC. This is located at 98 Dean Goss. It's 1.2 acres. It is currently zoned for C2. They are seeking a variance from our streetscape ordinance to eliminate the requirement to provide a sidewalk zone. So the existing conditions, so this is, Dean Goss is located off of 515 in a C2 zoned area. They do have water and sewer out there and approximately 180 feet on Dean Goss Drive. What they would like to do with the property is to have an equipment storage facility in addition to the existing building. So the surrounding uses, the Shiloh Baptist Church is to the north, we have more warehousing to the east. The south is a county rural residential non-conforming use, and then we have a speed auto reconditioning there to the west. This is the proposed site plan that the applicant has submitted, and this item came out while we were completing our site plan review. So because they are constructing a new building, the site must be brought up to current standards, including providing a sidewalk zone along the public street frontage. And so the applicant is seeking relief to have a variance from the sidewalk zone requirement, and they are citing topographical constraints. And so if you do recall, was it last year? It might have been sometime this year. We instituted the sidewalk payment in lieu fund, and that was for people that couldn't meet the burden of a variance, all 5 criteria, but had either a topographical issue or a utility placement issue. So, you know, only having so much right of way in order to get that utility installation. We don't want things underneath sidewalks, and also having a topographic challenge, which we are in the mountains, so that happens. So with staff analysis and reviewing the narrative that the applicant provided, there is a steep drop off from the driveway to the roadway, so there is a topographical issue. However, you know, this is not particular to this property because there are several areas here that do have that hardship. It is not particular to this property. Or peculiar to this property because, again, the topographic challenges happen throughout the city, and it is not the result. Such conditions are not the result of the action of the property owner, so this is a preference of the applicant to forego payment in lieu, and therefore self-imposed. And so, if granted, would not cause substantial detriment to the public good or impair the intent of the zoning ordinance. So, you know, we look at these things, sidewalk, as, you know, they could be precedent setting. Also, when variances do not meet all 5 criteria, it does take away from the strength of a variance, and you know, as always, if there are issues with the ordinance, you know, we see multiple requests for sidewalk variances, so which we have not seen. So we think that this, by granting a sidewalk variance, you know, we could see more of these coming up on areas instead of using the mechanism that the city decided to go with, which is the payment in lieu. So staff recommendation, based on the analysis and not having met the criteria, we do recommend denial of the variance request. Again, because it does not satisfy the criteria set forth by the ordinance and the zoning procedure law.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak on this, or any other discussion from the attendees?
Yeah, I'm here to represent Kevin Loner and Low Parcel. I mean, she said it just right, exactly. So the property, obviously, it's got.
Could you say your name?
John Wynn.
Yeah.
And so again, the challenging topography there, because it is on the side of a hill. There's already, I mean, the landscaping is there for almost probably over 15 years. None of the other facilities in the area actually have any type of sidewalk in here, and it is literally right off 515, so there obviously would be no foot traffic in and around that area. It's just kind of off the beaten path, and like I said, it's you know, it's just a very challenging. Obviously, that picture doesn't really give it true justice. This picture here kind of shows you that there's actually a really steep hill right there in front that would inhibit that.
No, I guess that was my question, was where the heck would somebody walk? Like, why would we need a sidewalk
Right, exactly.
on, I mean, I understand we created, you know, for a reason,
And I've got a picture if you'd like to see it of a little bit, it's a little further out so you can see the hill in front of it.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it, it is a very steep area. My thought is, I am a big proponent of sidewalks in general. So even if it's a sidewalk nowhere, I still enjoy it. But I do understand that, this is a low foot traffic area right now, but that's not always gonna be the case, potentially, so that's why we wanna go ahead and promote sidewalk use, installation and usage at this time. Any other comments, questions, concerns? Anything else from the panel? Any discussion? At this point, I'll entertain a recommendation for either denial or recommendation for either denial or approval or variance.
I recommend an approval, but it's just me.
Thank you.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. Do I have a second for that? Is there a recommendation for approval? Oh, sorry.
So is the variance is just to do away with the sidewalk and not the pavement as well?
Correct.
Yeah, so it would be an approval would mean that there would be no payment into the sidewalk fund. It would be a pure variance, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
I'll motion I'll do a
Okay.
second to deny.
Second to deny? Alright. All in favor of, recommending the denial of the variance, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Alright, the motion carries with 3-1. For a recommendation for denial. And again, just so everyone knows, everything that we've talked about today, the recommendations we make will go to the full, commissioners,
City council.
City council.
sorry, city council, commissioners account.
Yeah.
We go to the city council, so, they'll consider our recommendation, but absolutely can choose to disregard it. So if you did get the result you wanted today, please take it up with city council. All right.
And that will be December 2nd on Monday, so 6 o'clock will be the public hearing, so.
Yeah, so they're the ultimate decision makers. We're just a group of people to kind of talk through these things and give them our recommendations, pass them up the chain.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
So, with the denial, I think you stated that there were two options. Like the other option is you would pay a fee, is that correct? Is
It's
that what you
payment in
stated?
lieu. So yes, you can,
So
if,
even with the denial, that doesn't mean to put a sidewalk in. It
No,
means
no, no.
You go to option 2.
yes, in which case you would provide a letter to council saying that you have topographic challenges and that you cannot install the sidewalk per, the regulations and, you offer the amount. And I think we're at like $6 a square or linear foot right now. So you just offer, that money plus, I think it's a 20% contingency as well. And that goes into our walk fund that goes towards repairing existing sidewalk, only sidewalks, it doesn't go anywhere else, so.
Thank you. Yep, okay. Any other new business, anything that we're missing? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll motion to adjourn.
Have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you so much.